Sculpting a Hand Vase Part 1 by Stacy Hoffman. First you need to mix your polymer clay together. I used translucent Fimo, translucent Primo, raw sienna Primo, and black Primo. I used the two different shades of translucents because even though they're both labeled the same, they cure differently. I'm trying for a faux stone work here, like alabaster or a very thin marble. I'm taking the clay, I'm warming it between my fingers. After I've warmed the Fimo translucent, I'm going to add just a smidge of black to it. Now we're working the black through the clay. I don't want a total mixing. I want a mottled effect. Now I'm taking the Primo translucent, I'm mixing raw sienna and black with it, and again I'm going for a streaked appearance. I don't want it to be totally combined. I want the finished piece to look like marble. I'm adding a little bit more to the clay. Now I'm dividing the Fimo translucent in two, and I'm going to add black in a greater quantity to 1/2 of the Fimo translucent. Again, I'm halfway working it through, and after I've achieved a medium mixing, I will take all three pieces of clay together and combine them by folding them back and forth and smushing them between my fingers. The combination of the three different pieces will add variety to my finished hand. I'm looking for eye appeal. The very first piece that we will be working on is the vase part of the hand vase. We will form the cone shape and then pre-cook it in our toaster oven for 5 minutes and allow it to cool before progressing to the hand. Here I'm shown mixing the three together, twisting and folding and smushing. Okay, now I'm taking a small piece and I'm going to form it into a cone shape. After I've formed the cone shape, I'm going to take my bullet-ended sculpting tool, push it down into the center of the fat part of the cone. At least I will as soon as I find it. There we go. Now, you're taking the fat piece, you're smushing it into the cone, and then you're waggling it back and forth as you smush the cone further up the rod. What this will do is it will make a very thin edge. Now I'm using the cone to further thin out and flare the very edge of the cone. If you have sticking problems, you can moisten the tip of your tool with glycerin. You can also spread a little bit of glycerin along your hand. And I know it sounds gross, but you can also use saliva to do the same thing. I here shown rolling the end back and forth to thin it a little bit more, and then I will pinch off a bit of the bottom, progressively making the piece thinner and smaller. I'm taking my ball-shaped tool now, and the ball-shaped tool I'm making indented scallops along the very edge of the tip of the cone. This is not done with great precision. I want a rather loose look. If you want a tighter look, you could go along directly after one piece after the other until you get almost a pie crust effect. I've tried it both ways on this project, and I like it either way. Now, if you're trying to make a larger hand vase for like a Barbie-shaped diorama, it is easier to do the pie crust effect because your clay will be a little bit thicker along the tip. The thinner your clay, the trickier it is to get a truly precision finish along the very edge. Notice how the clay wants to fold back over on itself. You will have to use your tip of your tool or the tip of your fingers to gently ease the folded areas back out. After you get it exactly the way you want it, you're going to want to pre-cook it in your toaster oven before going to the next stage. In order to make sure that when I put this in the oven that it doesn't lose its shape, I take some cotton balls and I thread them until it's a light fluffy cloud, and I gently rest the vase shape on top of this. Now notice I made one edge an elongated tier. This is to make the finished vase look more graceful. Now we're almost ready. I'm going to check and make sure that I like the size, clean up any rough edges. Just a little bit more forming until I'm quite happy with what I have. This was done in real time, so this will give you an idea of how long this took to make. Now, if you do not wish to make the hand, you could take this piece and hot glue it or crazy glue it into a silver finding and make a shorter vase this way. Okay, I'm going to pinch off the end. I now have it the shape I want, and I'm going to go ahead and bake it. This concludes part 1, and hopefully I'll get to part 2 later this evening. Thank you for joining me, Stacy Hoffman.